Welcome. Hi, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Now we're recording. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Jill.
Welcome to Remote Sober Support Network podcast. I'm really happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here with you. This is amazing.
I am really rookieing it right now. This is my first ever podcast. And I just can't imagine doing it with somebody else. We met just a short couple months ago, if it's even been months, maybe like a month ago. And the incredible impact you've had, not just on me, but our network is in just, I really don't have words. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here and supporting everything that you do as well. So
Thank you, Jessica.
I'm so grateful for Remote Sober Support Network.
Yes. Okay. Let's tell our viewers what the heck is Remote Sober Support Network and why is it such a tongue twister? So we're going to refer it to, once we get like just the masses, it's RSSN. So I can start with that too. Like, welcome to RSSN. I am just tickled with the quality of not just the person that you are and what you bring to the table, especially in our group sessions here at RSSN, family support side, I should add. What Jessica and I do for our viewers is we really do represent the healing and the parallel of our addict and our loved one, and then the family support. So what we offer is our own testimony, but we also offer just the tools that we used, that we've gathered along the way of education, of experience, of years of loving the addicts in our lives. We bring to the privacy of our clients' rooms, bedrooms, homes, support. I really envisioned, when my husband and I started RSSN, I envisioned that our like one-on-one coaching sessions were going to be like the thing. But what I found is that our group sessions, the ability to meet all of our clients within our network where they're at and to speak just life and hope into them is immeasurable. So,
yeah.
I am going to let you speak. I'm going to stop soon. And I'm trying not to emulate like Drew Barrymore or Kate Hudson. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be Jill Ross. And Jill Ross and Jessica Endicott are enough. So
we are.
The one thing I can say, though, that gives us a little professionality is that we've got our branding mugs. Hey, okay.
Cheers.
But I'm just going to kind of break down everything you do. And then I really want you to just go for it. I'll ask some questions, in between some of your responses. But I just really want to go into how we met first and foremost. I put out an ad in LinkedIn and we had like 900 plus applicants, which was just a daunting task. We had marriage family therapists, such quality credentialed individuals. I called them after I vetted them. I'm like, let's have a phone conversation. And what's really made up our family support group of coaches is, yes, their education, but I was like on the phone going, what's the juice? Like, what keeps you kicking? What keeps your heartbeat waking up with joy and contentment in the storm? And Jessica, your testimony, I think after that phone call, if I recall during it, actually, I was moved. I mean, just to tears of your resilience. See? Your resiliency, and your hope to help others. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is my friend Jessica. She is a credentialed yoga therapist. I'm reading it because she's actually everything. A mindfulness instructor. And actually just a woman of many a trades. So, Jessica, how did you get to where you are as far as being a coach? What is your story? And let's break it down.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill, for that amazing introduction. Yeah, the day that you posted that on LinkedIn, I think it was within 5 minutes we were on the phone. 5 minutes. So it was just like the universe was saying, here, you guys need each other. You get to work together. You're both on the same mission. And that mission is of saving lives, right? Saving lives and providing support where you feel so lost and all alone. And I remember talking to you and just sharing my story about my husband passing from opiate addiction. He got addicted to prescription pain medication by both his dentist and his doctor. So he'd had a hernia operation and some oral procedures done as well. So root canals, and both of them were prescribing Percocet and Loratab. So back to back. So within just a couple of months, my husband had over 300 pills. And nobody informed us, nobody told us how addictive these were, that they were actually opiates, right? That the same as heroin, binding to the same receptors in the brain. And he got hooked. Addiction runs in his family. He lost his father to a heroin overdose when he was only 15 years old. And addiction runs in my family as well. I lost my dad to his alcoholism when my dad was only 59 years old. And so growing up and like watching all of that, it's hard. It's very, very hard to be the family member watching your loved ones struggling with this addiction that's got them so tight, right? So my husband became addicted to opiates in 2006. Well, it was before that, but 2006 is when he told me he had the problem, right? When my husband, my sweet, incredible, salt of the earth husband, the love of my life, I'd been with since high school. He didn't come to me. I was like, what is going on with my husband? What is going on with this sweet husband that's so loving and kind, who's now this monster? He was irritable. He was yelling at our kids when he had never yelled at them ever. So I went out to his vehicle and I just started like going through and finding paraphernalia after paraphernalia, tinfoils, straws, balloons, pill bottles, tons and tons of pill bottles. And it was enough to fill one of those food storage bags, you know, the freezer storage baggies.
Yes.
Enough paraphernalia to fill that up. And I came back in and I confronted him. He was asleep. And I woke him up and I said, we need to talk. Like, we need to talk. And that was when he told me that he had a heroin problem and that he'd been going down to this park where the homeless people were and purchasing heroin from them. Luckily at that time he wasn't shooting it, but he was smoking it, which produces, you know, the same effect, the addiction. It just continues to drive that addiction. So we got him into a treatment program, and the treatment program that we got him into wanted to use Suboxone. Now, my husband had tried Suboxone by himself prior to me finding out that he was a heroin addict. And he went through the withdrawals from it. I watched him go through the withdrawals and I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was sick with the flu. He didn't tell me the truth at that time. And so that was a big thing. I didn't want him to go on Suboxone. Right? I didn't want him to go on Suboxone, but I couldn't find another treatment center that offered an alternative. And they said 6 months to a year, he'll be on Suboxone while he learns his coping mechanisms. So that 6 months to a year came and went. And the treatment center, the doctor and the psychologist had a falling out and they split ways. And because Charles, my husband, was addicted to the Suboxone now, he was dependent on it, we had to follow the doctor. So for 6 years, my husband was on Suboxone. 6 years we were in recovery. And he was relapsing. He would relapse on weed. He'd relapse on, having a drink here and there. And I remember the psychologist saying to us, these relapses, no matter what it is, keep that opiate receptor firing. And eventually that high is not going to be enough. And he said, that's going to be the death of you or the death of Charles, Jessica. And that stood out to me so much, especially because my husband ended up losing his life in 2013. So for 6 years, he was in this treatment on Suboxone, and he learned how to abuse it, because that's what addicts do, right? They learn how to abuse it.
Yep. Yeah.
So he learned how to abuse it, and we would go to the doctor and we'd say, we want to wean him off of this. We want to wean him off of this. We want to wean him off of this, because Suboxone doesn't just affect, like, it's a great medication. It has a purpose. It really does. But it should be short.
Yep.
And it wasn't short with my husband, and it started affecting his personality. It started affecting his ability to work. Our sex life was affected by it. We had no sex life anymore. And but that's okay, because you learn how to have intimacy in other ways. But he wasn't still back. He was still dependent on this other product to function, and he wasn't functioning. And so we talked, and we decided that we would slowly wean him off of it, because we couldn't find another doctor to help. And our last anniversary that we celebrated together, August 17th of 2021 and 2011, my husband said to me, Jess, I'm so afraid. He said, I'm so afraid of the pull the opiates have on me. He said, I'm afraid that I will lose my life. And then 2 years later, he lost his life. When he made that jump from Suboxone, the withdrawals were so bad. There wasn't anything else. We didn't know of any other tools out there to help with the withdrawals, because when you jump from Suboxone, you go through post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And so all of the withdrawal comes on you. So the withdrawal that you should have had from the opiates from the beginning, it now comes in, and it's 10 times worse. Right? So that's what you experienced.
Yeah, no, I just to interject, I often think, and yes, there's so many different ways to get sober. There's so many different ways, and I'm learning stuff daily, just speaking to more and more families. I know for my family and for my husband in particularly, he also had to just go the holistic approach because of what you're speaking of exactly.
Yeah.
I think often about when an individual goes to jail, is locked up and they are withdrawing. I mean, back in the day, there wasn't anything other than to have to feel it. And, I'm not an addict. You're not an addict. But at the same time, I've seen life after life where there's pain and suffering. There's this thing that happens of like, I don't want to feel this again. And so I'm totally with you on that approach of like holistic methods. And I know we're going to get there as to why you're so in the now and so knowledgeable. I recently, actually yesterday, took a class from you in regards to just our breath. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how to breathe. And we're going to break all that down. But there's so many beautiful holistic approaches to sobriety. And I just wanted to interject, and I want you to keep going. But what I was attracted to in the beginning is just like, you're able to separate the love you had for your husband and the addiction. And it's very clear. And you're able to pass that on, and you were able to see through all of it, still the love and the heart of who he is, and that it's just like a huge hold. And you also brought up another good point of these generational bonds, these generational ties, these generational curses, and how we as coaches, general consensus, we've all experienced it with family members prior to meeting our spouses. And so we dive into subjects like that too. But okay, keep going. Like keep going with your story, Jessica, because it's powerful.
Well, and what you said, Jill, to the generational thing and how we've all came from that background, the majority of us have, right?
Yeah.
It's because we couldn't save them, so we'll save our spouse, right? Oh my gosh, like, yes, I couldn't save them, but I'm going to love him so much that he's going to get better.
Yep. I know I recently we were talking about, I put my husband on a pedestal, young love, like he was going up on the highest pedestal. And by golly, he had a relapse in our marriage. I was crushed and shattered, but I just wrote down like a little funny quote, just like pedestal, it should not be for people. It should be for decorating a damn cake, like, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It should be. Yeah, it should. It's not for our spouses. It's not for our children. It's for decorations, for sure.
Yeah. There's heartbreak. There's not the right one-way answer. And I think that's what I also love about you meeting these individuals on our platform of where they're at. I've seen and witnessed you speak just such depth of your suffering. You're able to give them a sprinkle of hope. And I watch you, and you're so oh gosh, what's the word? I'm blanking. I blanked out on the word I'm looking for. Intuitive. Really intuitive with your clients. You're really intuitive. You can really meet everyone in that room, even if there's 10 people. I watch you, and you're like, I think that's what she's suffering, and I think that's what your holistic ways have grounded you into such, salt of the earth, depth of soil. You're so in the now, and your testimony, and that's just a piece of it. You go on and on and on. So please keep going. Please keep going. I just needed to interject.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for sharing all that. And thank you for seeing my abilities, but that's because of my journey, right? That's because of my journey. And we, as the family members, are the ones who we have that intuition, and we learn how to listen to it, and we know when something's wrong with them. And so that's been able to come into my line of work now as well. So it's just gotten stronger. So thank you for recognizing that. And thank you for your beautiful words. Okay. And so, yeah, jumping back to my story. So in 2012, my husband relapsed. He ran off on a heroin binge, wouldn't come home. And I'd called him and I begged him. And he ran off with a young woman. And I called, and he didn't come home. And so what did I do? I went to the phone log and I looked at all the past records of who he had contact with. And I messaged people and I said, if you know where Charles is, you need to let me know. Otherwise, I'm calling the police. I'm filing a missing persons report. Because it wasn't like him to not come home. This was a past Charles. This wasn't the present Charles that I knew. And he ran off with a 22-year-old. We were 35 at the time. So she was a heroin addict. Yeah. And just, it just grabbed him. He didn't come home. And for the last year and a half, I tried to chase him and help him get clean. And I ended up in a car accident myself, October of 2012, where I sustained bodily injuries and a concussion. And it was at that point in time where I had to take my healing. Like I had to shift to my healing now, because Charles wasn't there. I had to kick him out. I had to get a protective order. He couldn't see the kids. He was You know, in car accident after car accident, he was in a road rage incident where a gun was pulled on him with my son in the vehicle.
Uh,
And I mean, this is the ugly side. This is
yeah.
the ugly side of addiction. This was not my husband, but this is what the addiction does to them. My husband was a business owner. All the neighborhood kids loved him because he built a skateboard ramp in our driveway. Our house was the hangout house. You know, we were the cool parents, but drugs were not allowed at our house. The kids were not allowed to do that. But my husband got addicted to prescription medication.
Yep.
Prescription medication.
And that is a subject that we are going to dive into one of these days, because it's, I think, you know, we a lot of people are aware, but there just is some things that need to be broken within that system, no doubt. I do want to create at some point a super cool band. You know, it could be an RSSN family coach thing that we do in a project, where our loved ones can get a band when they go in for a procedure to be like, yep, just like diabetes or anything else, I am an addict. Please do not give me a narcotic. Because I can't tell you how crazy it made me when my husband said, like, oh, I need to get surgery. I was just in this state of such anxiousness just because of like my distrust in the doctors. And don't get me wrong, there are some beautiful doctors, but by golly, there's a lot of them that just don't understand and are not educated properly on addiction and what that looks like, you know, and what that really truly looks like. So I appreciate you being really transparent with that, because it wasn't just one of those cases where he's like straight to heroin. It was this gradual climb that we hear all too well of, and that just needs to be spoken of.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the majority of people are not saying, I'm going to be an addict today. Like I choose to wake up and do drugs. No, they don't. It really is biochemically. It does alter the brain. It does. And there's so many studies. There's so many studies that say that if you're genetically predisposed to it, it's like you have like
Can't stop, won't stop. It's just, there's a clicker for, unlike you and I, we can go on, off. It's just, I've seen in my husband with his relapse. I get it. It's super hard. And that's why, you know, we are here to recognize these beautiful individuals that come into our groups and being like, we hear you, we see you. You are not alone. And I mean, there's been topics discussed about just the humor in it too, because you know what? There's some gosh bless it darn things I've done that I'm like, I just never thought Jill would do that, you know?
Oh yeah, the crazy woman.
Crazy ass woman.
In the relationship, is it the addict or is it the partner?
Well, and that's a gosh darn thing we've spoken about so freely. My mom actually joined some of the meetings, which is hilarious and beautiful and healing all in one. But do I remember my quiet, soft-spoken alcoholic father, or do I remember my insanely angry, destructive mother?
Right.
And that's why we want to just be there. You know, we do offer, this is a time to plug, we do offer 2 meetings a day. 1 and 5 Pacific Standard Time, to our family supporters, just again to meet them there, because we have been those screaming wives. Clothes outside the house. You're out of here.
Throwing clothes at vehicles. Chasing down friends.
Totally. Looking at the phones, calling the people. Like, I mean, we've been there. And I think that's what we really want to make sure we let everyone in on. We have been there. And if I haven't been there, Jessica has, or Tara has, or Esther has. I mean, there's just this array of women. It's like, we are here. And men. There's actually some men coaches. And we have men.
Well, and I think it's important too, Jill, to also note that not only do you have the family support groups, but you also have the support groups for sobriety, the recovering addicts, right?
We do. Those are 5 times a day. And let me tell you, 7 days a week. So family support 2 times a day, 7 days a week, sober side 5 times a day. And the beautiful thing is we have this incredible Slack community. Slack is this really great platform that a lot of industries use as a way of communication. And we've done a little spin on it. And we have these incredible channels for both sober side, family support side. We celebrate sober birthdays. We are, sharing food recipes, but it's much like, I don't know, a toned down Facebook, if you will, where everyone you meet has a heart for recovery, whether you're on this family support side or the addict side. But I just adore the heck out of you, Jessica. And I want to get into, your testimony can be a book.
Yep.
And it could also be the longest podcast in the world if we stayed here. But I really want to get into like what you offer. I know that you are a coach, a yoga therapist. That's your career, and you've also stepped into this beautiful role as a coach on RSSN. And just like what you offer in these group meetings, given your background, your testimony, and I think that's where we're going now. Little testimony, and now let's go to like, how did you get all these tools in your toolbox besides just your living it?
Yeah. My healing journey really started after the loss of Charles. Even though I'd been going to physical therapy and chiropractor and doing massages, it was when my sister came to me and she said, Jessica, go to hot yoga with me. And hot yoga sounded so horrible. I said to her, I was like, that just sounds torturous. That sounds so torturous. Why would I want to torture myself more than I'm already being tortured? And she's like, just try it with me. Just try it. She said, commit to 7 days. You have to give it 7 days because you have to allow your body time to acclimate in the heat. She said, just come and lay there. You don't have to do any movements. And I said, okay. So I went with her and started doing hot yoga. And the first time it was torturous, but I continued and I went for 30 days and my body started healing. And so because that was so powerful, I kept going. My physical therapist was also, so I had gone to physical therapy too. So I was doing a combination now. I was doing physical therapy, yoga, chiropractic, and massage. So I was doing all of these now, and I was eating healthy because I've studied nutrition since 2003. So I was already eating healthy. But it wasn't until I met Mark, who was one of my yoga teachers. And he said, Jessica, I was in a severe car accident myself. I had a brain injury. Let me do an amino assessment on you. And so I said, okay. I was like, okay, because my concussion still wasn't healed. And I was still suffering big time with what I would call blackout things from my concussion, where everything around me would go black. I'd have just my peripheral vision would completely just go away. And I couldn't see and I couldn't focus and I couldn't function. And the brain injury was huge. It was really, really huge for me. So I was like, what do I have to lose? Like he wasn't charging me very much to do this assessment. So I did it. And he gave me aminos immediately. And within 20 minutes, my mind was functioning. Like I was able to focus. I had motivation again. I had a drive for life. I just felt like my brain was actually working. It had felt like it had been turned off for so long since this car accident and the trauma. And so I started using the amino acid therapy now. And so because all of this helped me on my healing journey, I was like, I have to get certified in some of these things.
Yeah.
So I started doing the research. What schools am I going to go to? How am I going to do this? And so I threw myself into yoga teacher training, and I didn't just do the 200-hour or the 300-hour. I had to go all the way and do the 1,000-hour yoga teacher training. So to become a yoga therapist. So that's really in depth. It's working with trauma. It's working with psychologists and understanding trauma and doing psychotherapy work. And just diving really, really deep into healing, working energetically, emotionally, physically with the body. And that's where I experienced even more healing, was going through my own yoga teacher training, my own yoga therapy training, and also being used as a guinea pig too, because I still had bodily injuries that were still coming up. You know, it takes a long time, especially when you're holding those emotions deep inside. They get stored within us.
Yeah, they do.
So I did that yoga training. I did my mindfulness instructor training because I still was living in fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And meditation significantly changed my life. It took me out of that reactive state and put me into a more calm, collected state, so that I wasn't screaming and yelling at my family anymore, because I was a screamer.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big yeller. But
Yeah,
why was I a yeller? But why are we that way, Jill? Because we have these addicts that are literally going to lose their lives. Like, we know that if they don't stop this, they're going to lose their lives, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Sadly, my husband did lose his life to his addiction. But so meditation helped me. So I did yoga, meditation, and then I'm like, what's the next thing? I want to dive deeper into nutrition. And so I drove deeper into nutrition and got my functional nutrition certification. And then the last thing was the amino acid therapy, because the amino acid really does help to repair the brain, and it helps people come off of their medications too, their SSRIs, their antidepressants, their MAOI inhibitors. Like, it repairs the brain within 3 to 6 months. And within 20 minutes of doing amino acids, you're experiencing a difference because it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So all of these tools helped on my healing journey. And as much as I tried to stay away from the addiction side, I didn't want to be on the addiction side. I wanted to help with physical elements, which I still do.
Yeah.
But the addiction just kept coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. And last year, my daughter came to me and told me that she was suffering with alcoholism. And so it just is, you know, it's so close to my heart, so dear to my heart. And thank God my daughter's 6 months sober now as the date of the show, you know, but it still is, it's just close to my heart. I've watched many family members and friends struggle with addiction, mental health issues. I've lost many friends to addiction and overdose and suicide.
Yeah.
And this is where I have to be. This is where my passion is. This is what I've studied. This is what I've experienced my entire life. And it's not by accident that I'm on this path, even though I tried to get away from it.
I'm going to just pause for a second and just say, you have a story to tell. You have a story to tell. And it's not just like one, you know, you've got chapter after chapter after chapter, and it's going to keep finding you because you're so incredibly powerful, Jessica. You are so incredibly powerful. And just one thing before we move on, you brought up antidepressants, and I can speak just, you know, very freely about my journey. When my husband relapsed, I was in a really bad place after, you know, he came back, and it took probably about a year, and I started to get angry again because it was a time for me to release. And I had to be put on by choice, you know, an antidepressant. And I don't think we speak so freely on the family support side of ways that we cope with our trauma. And what's beautiful and eye-opening is that you get to speak this over our clients within the group. You know, if someone says willingly, like, hey, I'm on this, I want to be off of it, and like what you can do to get off of that there's hope for us too. Even though we can turn the on and off switch and we don't have the addiction part of DNA that's running through us, there's ways that we cope on the family side too that maybe aren't the healthiest. And I'm not putting any of it down, but I know, like, even like family member, you know, I could drink too much too, because it's like, okay, you did it, I'm gonna bring it on, you know. And I think I think that's another podcast. But okay, keep going, because I wanted to pause and just say it keeps finding you because you have a story to tell, a big one that brings so much hope. So much hope.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and I wanted to go back to what you said because, Jill, we suffer a lot. Our brains are shifted because of the craziness of the addiction too, right? We go through the depression, we go through the anger, we're experiencing this grief, this long-term grief all the time while our companion is using, or our loved one, our child, our neighbor, our friend, whoever it is, whoever we love, we are going through neurobiological changes in our brain because of the stress, and that changes our neurotransmitter firing patterns as well, and the amino acids can help. Yeah, but it's not just the aminos, it's a combination of things, right? Aminos are just one part of it. We need the group, we need the support from one another too, and that's what RSSN has.
Yeah, we have a grief coach that is with us a lot, and you brought up the word grief, and grief, you think death. You've experienced that. You've been on the front lines of that, but grief comes in all different forms, and it's just so nice to be reminded that there is grief when your loved one relapses. There is grief with like living things. We're constantly having to go through that emotion of that dying of self or within, or the dreams and so forth. And I want to go into that too at another time. We got to make sure our listeners get hooked though, like we're going to hook them, and I'm going to be like right up there with Drew Barrymore. Gosh darn it. Because we have a story to tell. And I just wanted to just make note that all of our coaches are so intertwined with each other, because for 30 days prior to us having any clients, we were within each other's groups. Like that was the heart and the heartbeat of RSSN, is that we're not just working side by side. We know each other in and out. Like I now know, like if Jessica comes to a meeting of mine that I'm leading, she'll know if I'm not in a good place. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, she knows I can't fake this. I got to be real. And even as coaches, we can bring kind of what's going on in our lives to the table and make it applicable about things that we are struggling with, because, as a coach, it's just our job is really just to point our clients to the answer that they already have within themselves.
Yeah.
And just be a beacon of hope and light, with everything that we've gone through.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that you said the answer is within ourselves too, because we're constantly looking for answers outside. We're taught that, right? We're taught to look for answers outside, but the answers are really within us.
Yeah.
And we are a beacon of hope for each other. And I love that we're able to jump on and support each other's meetings too at any time on our days off, because it's so powerful. Yeah. And I need the meetings just as much as the meetings need me, right?
Yes. Yeah. If I go like a couple of days where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have a meeting, like I'm not facilitating anything, I genuinely miss my RSSN peeps. Like I miss them. I feel like it's been a year because we know so much about each other, but there's this trust that we have with one another that is just, oh gosh, it's palatable, like you can't deny it. And I think when other newbies come into these meetings, they see it, they're like, what the heck is this? Before we wrap up, I've been asked what's the difference with just going to an Al-Anon meeting, like what is the actual difference with this? And I guess what I wanted to touch on is that the 12 steps is the most incredible tool. I know for both sides, the program is something that has actually, it saves lives. It's totally part of our toolbox, but we have the freedom in RSSN to speak about just all of it, all of it. And that's what I just want to make sure our viewers know, is that we have these freedoms and we can just kind of, I don't want to say we can crosstalk, but I guess you know what? We are doing a little bit of that. We are just being our authentic selves. We're meeting each other in these meetings where it's just free. There's freedom in it. Like, I think that's what I just wanted to point out to our viewers.
Oh, there is a lot of freedom there. It's not censored, and you get to show up and just be your authentic self too. And I think I love that, because there's times where, Jill, I've seen you in a sweatshirt and your hair in a messy bun, and I just love it because it gives other people permission to just show up how they are, right? Just show up.
Just show up. Yeah, before we wrap up, when you said show up, like, I envisioned when my husband relapsed, I had a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old. And I would have done anything to have had this group there with me, because I couldn't get out of the house. I was cutting hair, trying to keep the roof over our head. Husbands down and gosh knows where down south getting treatment. Like, I would have just had so much more hope and strength within that process. And that's kind of why we're here, making sure that we aren't just representing the sober support side. These family members, they have been through it. We have been through it, and we want to walk side by side in our healing along with our loved ones continuously. Like, I'm not saying I'm healed. I'm not. Like, I still have so many triggers, so many thorns on my side that I'll always have, but it's how am I able to respond to them? What's my response? And that's where, Jessica, your training of breathing, of your yoga, of your movement, of the food that you intake, it's all so important. It's so important to us to do that, so that in our response, there's peace.
There is peace. Yes, there is peace. And there's hope.
So much hope.
Yeah. And there's community, and there's love, and there's compassion, and so many wonderful, amazing things. So,
yeah. Well, gosh, to be continued. I just wanted to everyone get just a taster of who Jessica Endicott is. And I think we succeeded with that. There is so much more that you have within you that I want to just shed light on. So you're coming back. I hope you come back. Will you come back?
I'll be back.
She's gonna be back, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned to more of our RSSN podcasting family side. I appreciate you being here. And if you guys are interested in support and you are finding yourself in that place of, gosh darn, I have a loved one who's actively using, or I have one in recovery, and I need a place to just be, go to our website, www.remotesobersupport.com. Ding. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jill. And thank you for everything that you are doing, you and Daniel are doing. It's truly an honor to walk beside you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Same, ditto, all the feels. All right. Signing out. That's a wrap.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.